The Darkness is Magic mod just dropped, and it is much darker than a lot of people know. This mod is based off a piece of fanfic called An Apple Sleep Experiment created by Magpiepony. And the fanfic was actually inspired by the creepypasta called The Russian Sleep Experiment. Now, for those of you that don't know, the creepypasta deals with Russian researchers back in like the late 1940s who kept 5 people awake for 15 days using a type of gas. And as you would suspect, the 5 prisoners ended up going completely crazy due to lack of sleep. But there is one quote that really stands out at the end of the creepypasta that relates to this mod. The quote is this: "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." And what this means is people stay awake for too long, we fall victim to madness. And this is what we actually get to see with Applejack. Now, obviously the fanfic revolves mostly around Applejack, but it actually all begins with a pony called Filthy Rich. And basically this pony insists that the Apple family owes him more Zap Apple jam, which is basically what they make on this farm of theirs. Now, Applejack's grandma ended up taking a loan from this pony, and as a result, now he's saying since they can't pay it back, he wants all their jam. So yes, he is a bit of a scumbag, and to make matters even worse, during this time in Equestria, there's a huge drought, meaning that it is severely hot, which makes it even worse for these ponies because now they have to work out in this blazing heat. And even knowing this, Filthy Rich still only gives them 2 weeks to basically reach this deadline. And while Applejack is not happy about this and she argues with him, she eventually realizes that she's not going to get anywhere arguing with Filthy Rich, so she begins to overwork herself to meet this deadline. But of course she realizes that she's not able to work fast enough in order to reach this deadline. And if that wasn't bad enough, eventually Big Mac ends up getting heat stroke, so they're not able to help at all either. So in order to save her farm, Applejack goes to Twilight and asks her to mix up a potion that will basically keep her awake for a full day. Now in Twilight's defense, she does warn Applejack that this could end very badly for her, but Applejack is so desperate to save her farm that Twilight eventually gives in to her request. And good news, the potion does actually work. The problem is that the potion actually works too well. The potion was supposed to wear off after 24 hours, but instead lasts for days. And during this time, Applejack finds herself unable to sleep at all. Now, some of you may not think that that's a big deal, but it has been proven that after 48 hours of no sleep, people will start to see things that are not there. So basically a person sees hallucinations, which occurs when you see something that isn't actually there at all. And they can also suffer from illusions, which are when you see something but you think it's something else, right? So a person may see like an animal running through the woods and think that there's some shadowy monster actually stalking them, right? Because they're so deprived of sleep. So as you can imagine, as time goes on, this quickly starts to take a toll on Applejack's mind. She keeps thinking that she's seeing Filthy Rich or ponies that work for him. And she starts to kill all the ponies that come onto her family's orchard to try to help her. And this is actually why we see her with the shovel in this mod. It was basically like her main weapon of choice to take out these ponies, along with knives, and of course her other weapon was her hooves, meaning that she would simply buck them to death. And for people that don't know, a horse's kick can transfer a force of more than 2,200 pounds. And to put that into context, it only takes 900 pounds of force to break bone. So all that to say, a horse's kick can hurt like heck and even be deadly. And while we don't know every pony that ended up being killed by Applejack, we do know that it was a lot, because in the story it actually describes the orchard as like a death field, meaning that it was just filled with ponies. But some of the ponies that were named were like Bonbon, the green pony whose name is Lyra, I believe, and probably the saddest person on the list is Apple Bloom, who is Applejack's little sister, and also the person who was able to give Applejack the cure. But once she actually puts the needle with the cure inside of her sister, Applejack ended up bucking her hind legs and kicking her little sister into a tree. And while this doesn't necessarily mean that she is dead, by the way that the story ends, it implies that her little sister is no longer with us. And while we don't get to see this in the mod, we do get to see in the actual fanfic that Applejack is kind of captured and put into a cell once she's given the cure. And it seems that the person who locks her away is Twilight. And of course the reason that she gives is because Applejack actually murdered a bunch of people, but they're not going to execute her because she's also been a hero in their land for a long time as well. cell. So basically they're going to allow her to live out the rest of her days as a prisoner in a cell, which some would argue is even worse than death. And one of the things here that rubbed me the wrong way and a lot of other fans of My Little Pony is that in this story, Twilight is the one that gave her this potion, but she doesn't take any responsibility for the effect that it had on her. So basically Twilight makes up a story saying that Applejack just lost her mind because she wasn't sleeping, but she leaves out the part where she gave her the potion that allows her not to sleep. And the reason behind this is because she's royalty and she doesn't want to give herself a bad name. It was actually a pretty sad ending and it left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouth. Now in the free play songs, we see a song that's titled Pegasus Device, and this is actually from a creepypasta called Rainbow Factory, and it was created by a person named Aurora Dawn. This creepypasta tells the story of two Pegasus called Scootaloo and Orion who fail a flight test because they try to help another pony named Aurora after she ends up breaking her wing while flying. Now you would think that the other ponies would be happy that their young students cared about others, but instead the instructors were actually very upset and called these ponies worthless for failing their flight tests. The three of them were then transferred to a large weather factory that is managed by Rainbow Dash, and back in the day maybe some people were surprised to see like Rainbow Dash as a villain, but a lot of creepypastas have her as a villain or she's either chained up and going through something horrific, so I wasn't surprised to see her at all. Now after these ponies have been locked in a large room with several other ponies, Rainbow Dash actually reveals that this is not just a weather factory, but a rainbow creating factory. And even though rainbows are super beautiful, the way that they are made in this universe is super savage. This factory basically creates rainbows by grinding little ponies up that failed their flight test, and the machine is called a Pegasus device, which explains the name of the song in the FNF mod. This machine basically converts the corpses of little ponies into individual colors, which are then mixed to make a rainbow. And sadly, none of the ponies in this story actually survive at the end. They're either beaten up by guards or turned into a rainbow. This is actually a really dark creepypasta, especially considering that most of the people being killed here are very young. In the mod, we also get to see that there's some Pibby darkness elements added to it as well. I thought this is interesting because while there isn't a whole lot of backstory that goes with this, it was kind of cool to see that Rarity is one of the ponies that actually survives, because if we're being honest, she's not the one that most of us would have put money on. In case you're not familiar with her, she was basically like a fashion designer or like a seamstress, so like she made and like fixed clothes. And when you think of like the world ending by a dark plague, you don't imagine that a fashion designer is going to be the one to survive, but she proved us wrong. I do think that it is interesting though that a part of her ear is gone, so it obviously shows that she has gone through some type of struggle in order to get to this point. Now another person that pops up in this mod is Pinkie Pie, and she starts out as being corrupted, but as you see here, she actually gets spit out and she's able to take back her regular form. Now a lot of people say the reason that she's not able to stay corrupted is because she has such chaotic energy that she basically like offsets it. But I believe that some people are just able to get out of the darkness from time to time, because we also seen Peter Griffin do it, and we know that he's not powerful by any means at all. But put down in the comments if you know of any other characters that were able to break out of the darkness. I can only think of these two so far. In the mod, we also see that Rainbow Dash ends up being corrupted at all, which does not surprise me. We know in the actual cartoon, she would always try to go out of her way to kind of help her friends. So I just assume that she ends up getting corrupted trying to save other people. But it was kind of sad to see that this baby horse here, which looks like Scootaloo, also ended up being corrupted. Because while it does happen, it's not very often that you see children get corrupted. But with all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Peace.